Welcome to the business of being healthy, where we are passionate about treating our health as good as we treat our wealth. Shelly Bryan here, and I am obsessed with sharing real life experiences and wisdom to help save you time, heartache, and money as you continue to grow personally and professionally. Twice a week, we push aside that BS to take massive intentional action. And I promise by tuning in, you will receive the straightforward talk you've been waiting for, filled with actionable steps that will inspire you to achieve the health and wealth you desire while you are building your empire. Here we are again, another episode on the Business of Being Healthy show. I am incredibly excited. I say that a lot about these shows when I have guests on, but with guests like Kristina Bartold, I truly am, because she is someone that we met once and it was like instant communication, connection, real talk, no BS. Like I think I might have word vomited on her the first time that we met, but it was like so valuable because she just like took it for what it was. Right? And didn't like judge or anything. So I am so honored to have you joining me, Kristina. And Kristina is the co-founder and CEO of the Social Snippet. She loves helping entrepreneurs and small businesses grow their communities online using social media and podcasting. She is also a podcast host herself. And just welcome to the show, Kristina.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And you didn't word vomit. I love connecting with people online, especially in the online world, like where you have mutual friends and mutual connections, because immediately you can like hit the ground running, help solve each other's problems and like build each other up. So that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about, right? We're all kind of like in this messy growth stage, and it's so fun to be able to find people that just get it. But Kristina, I wish you would kind of just share a little bit about like Social Snippet, how it became, and a little bit of your background when it comes to social media marketing.
Yeah. So I come by social media really honestly, having grown up kind of using it and knowing about it and all of that. And so in my first job right out of university, I seemed to be the only person that knew how to use it. So I would just start using it. It just came really naturally to me. We all have our gifts of things that just come like really easily. I could look at anybody's social media and be like, oh, this is what you should do to sell whatever you're selling. This is what you should do this. When I was only like 24. So I started doing that. And then I started actually working with an ed tech company as a side hustle, doing their social media. Again, didn't think anything of it. Have a master's degree, was like working full time in my job, but would do this like little thing on the side that like I loved and just seemed so simple to me. And one of the things I loved the most about it was I loved seeing how social media impacted their audience. This company ended up being acquired by Cisco, like they did quite well. And they like had an amazing presence. But what I loved about it was actually seeing them connect with their ideal clients and build that community. So fast forward to kind of right before COVID, and I was itching for a side hustle because that company had gotten bought. And I was like, oh, like, do I start doing social media again? I decided to do personal development coaching with folks. I'm a Myers-Briggs trainer. I've been doing that for years. I'm almost 10. And so I love doing Myers-Briggs with folks at that time. And so me and who now is my business partner, we started doing these sessions for folks. She was my VA. And I started taking on one-on-one clients. I became a certified life coach. It was all like kind of part of this whole thing. But I noticed that I was like really selling out all my programs, everything I was building from the fact that like I had this amazing presence online of this community that I had built, that I was really pouring into. And I had people who were knocking down my door for things. And I was seeing that all that came from social. So then shortly after that, I started taking one-on-one clients, and every single one of my one-on-one clients left with a side hustle. Like everyone, I would help them strategize how they would sell online. I'd help them craft their websites. I was helping them with copy. It was like so far from what they originally were coming to me with. So I went to Maria, my business partner, and I said, what do you think? Like, what if we just started a little social media agency? And she was like, no, I don't want to do this. It's not enough impact. I want to do something that causes and brings impact to people's lives. And I was like, oh, what? Like, what could be more impactful than helping business owners be able to market their dreams out? And when I spun it like that, she jumped on board, luckily, just 2.5 years ago. And so we've been going ever since, doing social media and podcasting. We have about 60 clients that we work with kind of day in and day out on retainer, but we do one-off projects all the time. And I just feel so blessed to be living a life where I get to help people like show up online in a bigger way, because we know that that's like the number one marketing tool out there is our online platforms. And so being able to help people show up just a little bit stronger is a real blessing.
So, okay, there's so much fun stuff in that. And I hope everyone listening in caught it, but she had another job. Who else had that? Raising my hand over here, had another job, and then just kind of like did something she liked on the side for fun. And then it just grew. The thing that I love there is that you just like owned it, right? Like owned it that you wanted to go do something else, owned it that there was something that you were really good at and that you enjoyed, and just followed it. And I think that sometimes, coming from corporate myself, we can get scared because the golden handcuffs that hold you in corporate, you think like, oh gosh, what if I lose this? What if I lose that? And I was in the pharmaceutical industry. Talk about golden handcuffs. They were like ankle cuffs, handcuffs, like everything gold. I mean, it was
a building.
It was a great job. The benefits were amazing, but there was always something missing. And it was that like ability to really help people. And I love that you like sold your business partner, Maria, into this, right? Like it's all how you present it, everyone listening in. And we are selling all the time. If you don't
marketing
realize.
play. It was a marketing play. And actually, Shelly, too, like one of the pieces I just want to just share is that like I wasn't not scared. I like had a great, not a pharmaceutical job, but I had a great job that I loved. So I only had handcuffs. But I remember like a lot of vivid conversations with my parents. I come from an immigrant family. I have a master's degree. I'm first in my family to go to university. Like I had a lot of pressure. I owned a home. Like I had all this pressure that was so scary. I had my dream job that I thought I'd have when I was 50 at 29. So it was this hard thing of like hard to explain to people. Like 6 months ago, I was telling you that I really wanted this job, and now, hi, I'm about to leave and I'm going to change everything about my lifestyle. Me and my husband are going all in on this. Like, and I still had moments after it happened where I was nervous about it and scared. But that's part of the journey. And it's like, no one wants to read the book from the person that had a trust fund and quit their job and then, was just chilling in their beach home while they built their empire. Like people love the rise. And so, yeah, I think if anyone's listening to that and that's encouraging for them, is that like people are going to love your rise too, and are going to love to see what you do with it.
And there's no textbook way to do it. I feel like, we often have that pressure of going to school, and then it's like, okay, come out, get the job. You're going to have this job forever and blah, blah, blah. Kristina, you don't have kids yet, right?
No, not yet.
Okay. My kids, like my husband and I, Chris and I, we don't know that the kids are going to go to college. I don't know. And I can tell you that just short of like, even like 8 to 10 years ago, I was like, they're going no matter what. We're pushing them in. They're going to get that piece of paper. Boom. Now I'm like, I don't know. Because I think there are so many opportunities out there that there is no clear path anymore. And I love that the way that you said it, that it's right. Like your story wants to be told, and you're right. Who wants to read the book on the trust fund kid? Boring and entitled. No, thank you. Right. So I love that you shared that. Now, I want to dive in a little bit to social media. Everybody's either most favorite or most hated topic. I don't feel like there's like a middle, right? It's kind of, and I've been on both ends of the pendulum. I can tell you, Chris is for sure on one end. But I see the value in it. And I think that's one thing that is undeniable about building your brand and using social media and or other platforms as your brand. How do you, let's look at this from 2 points of view, because I really want to help our listeners that are business owners, entrepreneurs, career-driven people. Is first off, let's do this, because I hear this all the time and I think that you can answer it. I'm sorry, I just scrolled on us.
Oh, I can't wait.
Keep listening in. Is how do you define personal brand?
Oof. So I have a technical definition, and then I have like a strategic one. But I think like on the technical aspect, a personal brand is the difference between the Social Snippet versus Kristina Bartold, right? Like a personal brand is me as my person, as showing up like in as me. The Social Snippet would be like my company brand. So when we're talking about personal brand, like we're talking about founders, CEOs, business folks that like are using their own like persona or like their person to sell online. Why I actually think, and you didn't ask me this, but I'm going to answer it anyway. Why I actually think personal brand is king or queen is people buy from people. And so regardless of whether I can use an example of this, there's this Canadian I follow all the time. Have you ever heard of Hush Sheets? They're like a blanket and a sheets and stuff. No?
No, I haven't.
But they're great. Those cooling sheets, like it's great. And this guy, I like know nothing about his business. I know everything about him, Aaron Spivak. Like I know everything about him. And I bought sheets because I follow him and I know about where he works out in Toronto and like his cold plunging. And I know about, the founders dinners he holds and all of that stuff. And I felt like I've been part of the journey with him. And so people love a journey, right? And so that personal brand aspect is so crucial because people want to buy from people. While brands are really important, and that's why things like Duolingo have this huge personality on TikTok and stuff, right? Because they're trying to replicate the feeling of a personal brand and create a character. But personal brand is really when like you yourself are using yourself, your personality, your lifestyle to be able to show up and I think ultimately to sell.
I love that. I love that because I think that word gets muddy or those words get muddy, like personal brand. And what is personal branding? And it's like, what the hell? I don't know. You know what I mean? And it can be overwhelming because you're like, am I supposed to be like this? Or am I supposed to be like that? Or who like, right? And then all this imposter syndrome and like all this stuff comes up. I can tell you, I have absolutely gone through that in everything because I felt like I had different areas of life. And I was like, oh, well, this person won't want to hear about this or that. But like ultimately, the thing that I got from what you just said is about connection. So whether it's connection with your business or connection with you as a brand, right? Because I 100% agree with you that people buy from people. And so, I mean, when you were like naming off the product, Hush Sheets.
Yeah.
Hush Sheets. Okay. I was thinking about like First Form. I was thinking about First Form with Andy Frisella because I really love the brand and their mission and everything that they do. Like I'm thinking about that. I'm like, I'm going to always support him because I love how he's supporting everybody else and how he shows up. You know what I mean? So I think that there's things like that. And I can think of a few other ones. We'll just to keep the branding off the show too much. But I really love that you did that. So what are some things, because I really want to go more on the personal branding side for today rather than the business branding, because I think that's the one that maybe has a lot of gray area for people and truly understanding. What are some common pitfalls that you see people fall into when it comes to personal branding?
So the first one I'm going to say is that people have mega imposter syndrome around showing up and showing up authentically as themselves. And so that's something that I see a lot with clients and folks that I coach is that people will be scared to show up online and scared to be themselves. So, they'll think I'm boring. I'm somebody that people don't like. What's interesting about me? Like what? And these people are scared to show those things. And what they forget is that what makes them interesting is that they're just like everybody else. And we just want that view into people's lives. So that's what makes influencers so great is that when we look at an influencer, we're like, oh my gosh, like they're just like us. That's so cool. So when we look for those similarities. So I think that's the biggest one is like the getting started is like fearful. And I think the other thing that people do is that they don't do a good job of engaging their audience. And so asking their audience like what they want to see on their pages from their personal brand and then doing more of that, I think is really crucial because often we're posting things that we think we want. And we're not actually thinking about our ideal client or ideal customer and not actually asking like, how are they going to engage with what we're talking about? So like, for example, maybe you love race car driving. This is important to you. You love race car driving. Actually, you love horses. I know you love horses. So, okay, you love horses and say you're posting about horses 60 times a week and your followers aren't horse people. And they're like, oh, like, unfollow, right? Like, I can't look at another horse. But because that's not your niche, right? So it's like thinking about those types of things. It's like, what does your audience like to see? So my audience in particular, my audience doesn't want social media tips on my Instagram page. It's fascinating. Every once in a while I'm like, guys, like this new thing came out and I want to talk to you about it. And nobody cares. But when I go on a trip, people are all over it. When people want to see things about my dog, they want to see me and Maria traveling. If we do a live podcast, like people are all over that. My story views go off the chart. And it's because people want to be part of our lifestyle. They want to be part of our rise. They're watching what we're building. And so I think it's also, that's the other piece that I see people make a mistake in, is that they're posting for themselves, not their clients. And I think that's really important, especially when you're building out a strategy.
I think that is something, gosh, I just heard this somewhere else. It's so spot on, because we sit there and we're like, oh, like our perfect avatar is us, is me.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is what I want to see. And this is what I want. And this is what I want. And it's like, it's almost like catching yourself, right? Yeah. It's like, if I just like said the word I, or like, oh, I love this, or, oh, I love that. Like, I think you got to love what you're doing and putting out there, but you also have to be like, will they love it? Mm-hmm. Will my person really love it? Does this connect with the person that I'm talking to, right? Horses only connects with like a few tiny things, a few people. It's a close-knit people, but that is it. Otherwise, people are like, yay, that's awesome. You have a horse. Okay, move on. So I think that's really important that we start thinking, and it's just like in sales. It's just like in like, it's what the way I think about it, what just hit me is you walk into like a dinner or a networking event or a live recording podcast or something. You're not in there like telling everybody about you. You always want to be asking about them. You want to understand the other person. So I like what you just explained is helping me even think about it. Like, wow, I feel like it was Tony Robbins, and I'm trying to think exactly what he said because I'm going to misquote it. But it's basically like, I don't want to talk about myself once in the room. I don't want anyone to know me in the room. I want to know everybody, type of a thing.
Yeah. And that's ideally like what your personal brand is that you want to be able to talk about yourself in a way that people want to hear it. Yeah. So it's like, if, for example, like if I was going on there every day giving a social media tip, ideally my audience is going to start to curate itself and become that, right? Where it's like people who want social media, but they could just go to the Social Snippet page. Like, but what makes me unique are all these other aspects of my life. So I really try to make sure that like the type of content I'm presenting is the kind of content they want. And that's hard on a personal brand, especially when it's so personal. But I will say the more personal, the better in a lot of ways on social when it comes to personal brand. And I don't mean like you have to go in there and say anything explicit, but if you're like, okay, my friend Marina, she has a son, her son lost his passport. We're on this journey with Marina, right? Like we've been watching these videos of her talking about this passport nonstop, right? And that's kind of cool, right? Like it's cool to be part of it. People wanted to see that, like people wanted the updates. So I think it's really about trying to figure out exactly what your ideal clients would kind of go for, and then continue to replicate that. Like there's no such thing as bad content. It's just information. So if something does badly, you're just like, oh crap, that didn't do well. Amazing. Now I know I'm not going to do that again. Or I've tried that 2 or 3 times. It hasn't worked. I'm not going to keep going.
Okay. So again, stop, rewind the last like 30 seconds, because that I think is a recipe for many areas in life, right? Because it's like, there's really no failure. It's like, I learned what not to do. Let me move on. Right. Yep. Okay, cool. I'm not going to do that anymore right now. Let me move on. And that's where I love, like, you can even start laughing about it and like make it light. This doesn't define you. I think another big thing. So talking about like just being fearful of sharing yourself is like, your social media doesn't define whether you're good or bad, right? Or whether you're like smart or not, or successful or not. Like there's no definition of that. I know a lot of people that are highly successful that have zero presence on social media. Yep. Right.
Yeah. And like, I always say this on podcasts, and people are probably so sick of me saying this, but like no one who's doing more than you is judging you. So like no one, like Shelly, like I think you're so friggin' smart and like so successful. I don't think you're looking at my Instagram stories being like, ooh, that's so like sad she's doing this, or like embarrassing, right? Like you got your own crap to deal with. And if you're leveling up at that level, like you're not wasting your time on that. And so that was something I really struggled with. So when I talk about that imposter syndrome, it comes from an honest place of like, I've experienced that of like, when I started showing up on my stories and I used to talk about, hey, like this is something that I'm doing. Here's something that I'm doing. I still to this day have people who are in my life who I'll see them. They're like, oh, you post so many Instagram stories. And I'm like, mute me. Like, unfollow me. Like, I don't care because I know that when I don't post stories for a few days, I'll have people reach out to me and be like, where are you? Like, what's going on? Stories are a huge way that we make sales in our business. So am I going to miss out on sales or potential connections because this person that I see at one family dinner one time tells me I post too many stories? No. So like, it's sometimes about like unpacking and unraveling some of that, like, and that takes self-work for sure.
For sure. And what a unique perspective you have, right? Being a life coach and now helping other business owners on social media, because that is a big thing. And I think a lot of it comes to like reframing, right? Like you said, like, and if someone's going to talk bad about you, do you want them in your life anyway?
Yeah.
Do you care? Do you value their opinion so much that it will change your action? I think that's the thing that we have to ask ourselves is like, but great, you're not my people. Like, that's fine. Mute me, scroll on by. I don't care.
And find the people. And like, this is why connections, masterminds, people are so important. Like, communities are so important, is because when you find the people who are going to pump you up, no matter how much you show up or how little you show up, it makes all the difference. So, like, I have some incredible business friends that, like, if I show up every single day 100 times, would never say anything and would just be so happy that I'm building success, right? So finding those people in your life who are like, yeah, get after it. Like, that's awesome. Like, you're showing up, you're doing more than I am. Great. Like, and I think, yeah, I think we just need to find those people for ourselves.
100% agree. So I kind of want to keep this conversation going, but I want to talk about something that you and I have talked about off air, and that's being healthy on social. And I feel like we could go a few different ways. So I'm excited for this part of the conversation. Here on the Business of Being Healthy, right? We are going to talk about kind of all things business and health. And it's not always, people think like, oh, health, like gym, eat, whatever. There's a lot of other like meanings to the word health. So Kristina, share a little bit more about being healthy on social media.
Well, it actually ties in kind of well to what we were just talking about, because I think there is a level of, anxiety, fear, stress that can come from being on social, being fearful of judgment, being fearful of performance, like all of these things. And so that's why I think social media boundaries are really important, is like, whether that's creating a system on your phone that turns social media off for you, whether that's muting people, whether that's unfollowing people that make you feel bad. Like, I'm a huge believer that your feed should be a reflection of your attitude. And so you should be having people in there that lift you up, that you're excited to see, that don't make you feel like garbage. And I think that, because especially the social media era, like, it is so easy for us to be like watching each other and judging each other and feel that judgment for ourselves. And so creating those systems is really important. And I actually chatted with a friend recently. He was killing it on social, like absolutely killing it. And he went dark for like 2 years. And I went up for coffee with him and I was like, hi, like, I literally used to see you show up all the time. And he was like, it was for my mental health. Like, I needed a break. It was way too much. Like, I was doing way too much showing up and I was seeing people do so much better than me. And that was really hard. And like, and that's why I think like the work that Maria and I do is really important, is because we're actually trying to reframe the concept of building online and changing it to being really about building your community. Because you actually want to be building for people that like love you and are behind you and are excited for you. And like, yeah, so we've had weird things happen. I've had trolls attack me. Like, I'm like over it. But at the same time, like, the community we have, I really feel is unmatched. And it's been really intentional as curating that space for ourselves. So instead of thinking about building following, thinking about building community and really cultivating that space like you would a membership or you would a family dinner, is really important for you to be able to kind of keep your sanity online.
I love that. And it made me think of so many things, but because I feel like there's words that get thrown around. Community has been like one of those buzzwords recently, right? But I love how you kind of tied it in a little bow there. And that's what I'd like to do for the listeners, is talking about, it's like the intentionality of cultivating relationships. It's not like, I know for me, I have been like, oh my gosh, I don't have the followers. But like, when you think about it, and I'm going to bring you guys back for a second. I'm bringing you guys back to my pharmaceutical days, right? And this is when I was in sales before marketing. And it was always like, I would look at my numbers, right? My job was to encourage prescribers, doctors, physician assistants, nurse practitioners to write my prescription over a competitor, right? Through data. Some of my colleagues maybe did it other ways. I use data and actual selling skills to get it done. That being said, I would look at all the numbers that came in. Yes, we got numbers and data on this. This is not new. But I would look at it. And that's when I truly saw the 80-20 rule in full effect, that 80% of my business was coming from the 20%. And so really, instead of spreading yourself so thin, trying to please everybody, say everything right, perfect, see everybody the exact amount of times, all I had to do to grow my business was focus on building relationships with that 20%. And so when you look at like social media, and I fall into this trap all the time, Kristina, I'm like, oh, my following is like, meh, whatever. For my personal brand, a business I had is huge. Like, so I'm like, I fall into this trap that it's like not worthy. Oh, my followers aren't I'm not like, it's just not enough. And I think that it's that cultivating the relationships for the connections. I would rather have that 20% that's driving 80% of my business that truly knows me, understands me, feel confident talking to me, tunes in, finds that what I share solves a problem for them. Like that is, I think, something that doesn't get talked about enough. So I really appreciate that you brought that up.
My friend Lex actually just said this on my podcast. She said, like, the best referral source you have is the community that you already exists for you. And I think that is so true because often we're obsessed with each other, like kind of what you're talking about. Me too. I get into this headspace too, where I'm like, oh, like I love my podcast so much and I love this, but it's not getting the reach. And maybe if I had 5,000 more followers, I would get a better reach. Or maybe if I had $5,000, if I had 5,000 more followers, this would happen. Like these pieces that like we create for ourselves. And when really what we need to do is we need to over deliver to the people that we've already got in our midst, in our handle, the people who are already in our DMs all the time, the people who are liking all of our stuff, like over deliver to those people so that if there's a chance your name can come up, they're happy referrers. And I think that's something that people I don't know, estimate or underestimate, like is the impact that can have. Like I've never run one ad for her business. Never one time. I've never run an ad. Maria and I are only this fall going to start advertising because now we've staffed up. We've never advertised. So there's still people where I'll meet them and they're like, you do done for you podcasting too? And I'm like, yeah, I don't really talk about it because we haven't had the capacity to take on more people. Now we do, but it's because we work 100% on referral because we pour into our people and people are so happy to give us referrals, which is such a blessing, but that takes a ton of work and it takes work away from the time we would be spending like aimlessly trying to find people to buy from us. Mm-hmm. And so I think when we have the opportunity to pour into our people in a way that feels like impactful and easy and asking honest conversations and having genuine dialogue, that goes so much farther than some of the other things I know that other people have tried.
It's so true. It's so true. And so like anyone listening in right now, I would just like, I hope that this conversation that we just had kind of like takes some of the pressure off like, I got to build this big audience. I have to be everywhere every time. Like I'm really not on Facebook anymore. Like I'm not, because that's not really where my audience is that I want to serve right now. And so I've pulled off that. Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, you're where I'm at right now. And there's like, I would love to get your thoughts on Threads that just came out. We'll close with that. So stay tuned because I would love to get an expert's view on Threads. But it's like, I'm staying singular focused. This is where I need to be. This is where I need to show up consistently and cultivate the audience that I want to connect with. These are people I want to know. Right. Yeah. And that's who I want to make sure that we're building. And so I think it's so important that you said that.
Do you want my opinion on Threads?
Oh, no, we're saving it. Everyone listening in right now, stay to the end because we're going to hear about Threads from Kristina. So not yet. I was going to close with that one. One thing I would love for you to share a little bit on when it comes to branding and like voice, how do you help coach someone that is still trying to find their voice? Because I think, and we've touched on this, right? Like this is, we've touched on these topics, but then we kind of peel back the layers and we dive in on specific ones. So I hope that's what you're following on this episode. And so finding the voice, like how you talk and connect. How do you do that? And here's the other thing is like running a social media agency and you have writers and helping them learn your client's voice and like all of that. Like there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
How would you help someone?
Yeah. So one of the things we do when we start working with someone is often we'll record a video of us kind of chatting, and then we get a sense for mannerisms and style. We ask them, phrases that they say and things they like. And so we do a lot of that asking. But if you're trying to figure out a lot of that for yourself, I think the best thing for you to do is to try to write some of your own stuff out without the help of AI or anything like that. And the reason I say that, I love AI tools. I use ChatGPT all the time. I ask it things like all the time. I just need to know. But what I love about you spending some time actually writing is that you get your own tone of voice. So for example, the way Jenna Kutcher writes, right? She's very like, hey girl, like this is the scoop, like, this, and she writes it very like journal-esque. That's not how I write. So even when I have used ChatGPT for captions and I use prompts and I'll be like, write a caption about self-care like a millennial blogger. Like it doesn't sound like me. It doesn't sound like me at all. I actually started with yo once, which was alarming. But it's stuff like that it's like, the only thing that we can do is the stuff for ourselves. And so trying to figure out like, what is your tone of voice? I would start by writing about topics that you're passionate about. And that can feel hard, but even sometimes voice noting it, like if you have a social media manager using something like Otter AI, like jumping on a voice note and saying, this is like my style, or this is what I'm thinking about this, or this is my perspective on this. And always things take a bit of time to figure out. Like, don't put so much pressure on yourself that you can't change or that you can't develop over time, you can't grow. So if you write stuff and at the beginning you're really formal because you've only ever written for an undergraduate degree, and that's the only way you know how to write. Now you're on social, and social writing is different, and you don't know how to use emojis properly. That's fine. And then if you learn how to use emojis, add them in. Like, we get to all develop and grow online. So I think hopefully that helps answer the question a bit, but I think really just diving into your own voice is just taking some time to like be with yourself and figure out what your thoughts are on kind of your niche and your topics.
I love that. Like just really investing in you, right?
Yeah.
So we could I talk about that, investing in you from your health side to help your business, but like investing in you to find your voice. And I love that you brought up Otter AI. That is a great one I use. And I even just do the microphone on Google Docs. Sometimes, like for me, those of you listening in, when you're trying to find your voice, I don't know about you, but when I type, I am overanalyzing and perfecting as I'm typing. So it's hard for me to do that. So voice text either into my phone, I pull out my podcast mic and I do the mic on a Google Note or Otter AI. And just talk, just let it come out and like all your mannerisms, because I'm telling you, I love that you brought up the like, hey there, hey girl. If you use the word hubby with me, I'm out. Like I'm out. I cannot. Everyone tuning in right now, I'm sure I'll see some of you live and you're going to come up and like squeeze me and be like, oh, hubby, or like, oh, how's your hubby? Like just to push my buttons. Please do not use the word hubby with me. And like that, hey girl, I have never been a hey girl. So no. I'm with you. I've never.
And once you know that about yourself, right? Like I've done that too. We've used copywriters, like something in our agency we do all the time is that if I'm going to hire somebody to work on a client, they'll work on me first. Yeah. And so they'll do a bunch of writing for me. And I've had people write stuff and I'm like, have you met me? Like this is not something I would ever say, but they needed to learn that that's not the way I would talk about something, which then in turn makes them even better for future clients. Right. So we're always iterating.
I love that. And that's like the fun of the game. Right? Is that there's like no end point and there's always something to learn.
Yeah. Love it.
Okay. So I do want to talk about something that I just touched on a little bit ago, but I would love your take on it. And it's like what platforms to use and how you should like start. Like, let's say that you are already established as a business owner or just in your career, right? In your professional career, and you're everywhere. Like you literally are everywhere. What would you say to that person versus someone that's like brand new starting?
Mm. So just to clarify, they're already on all the social media platforms kind of thing. Okay. So I would say if you're just getting started and you're like really trying to figure out where you should be, that's a hard place to be. I can totally appreciate it. You want to actually, the first platform, I would just start with one. I would just start with one platform. Don't worry about being Alex Hormozy. You don't need to be on every platform 4 times a day. But what I would recommend is you choose one person or one platform that you're really excited about that your ideal clients on. So for example, if your ideal client, say you're 65 years old listening to this podcast right now, and your ideal clients are people 70 plus, I would not start on TikTok. That's not where I would start, right? I would start on Facebook. So you have to think about where your ideal clients are. I'm 31. My ideal clients really on Instagram. Like that's the main spot. Could find someone on TikTok, no doubt. But like you start to think about LinkedIn for sure. You start to think about where your ideal clients are and you start to pour in on that space. And what I would do is I would pour in from an educational standpoint first. I would just serve until you need to make money. Like I would just serve as much as possible. So that's what I would say. And then I would start to develop more platforms as time goes on. So if you're posting on Instagram, you're building community, it's going great. Then you're like, okay, I'm going to make a post on LinkedIn. That's awesome. You can use a tool like Later. I love Later for scheduling. That's a great tool. And then this way you can schedule across lots of platforms. But don't be intimidated. Like everyone who's on every platform started on one platform. So really just getting started is kind of the name of the game.
Now, what about someone that feels overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
And there's this little voice, maybe this little devil on one shoulder that's like sitting there being like, no, you have to be on every platform because that's what all the influencers do. And you have to, like, you can't. And they're talking about healthy, right? Like kind of near the point of like burnout.
Yeah.
How would you help kind of talk that person off the ledge, right? Bring them back from burning out, but still being able to provide for their community and drive business?
Yeah. So like two questions there, like, or two things that come to mind to me there is like one, from like a mental health aspect, like, being burnt out, this will lead you not posting on any platforms. So if like that's something that comes to mind to me often, people come to me, they're like, I need to be posting 7 times a week. This is like, and I'm like, you're so burnt out that you're not going to be posting once a week, like by the time this is going. So that's one thing I will say is that like, if you're feeling the burnout, if it doesn't energize you and you're not excited about it, choose one platform that funnels to an email list. The email list is, even as a social media manager, I can tell you, email lists are all you own, right? So bringing people to your email list is crucial. So really just focusing on one place and then build up from there. So it's like if you're into exercise, which I'm sure many of your listeners are, and you start like a business, or you're like, okay, you start running. It's like, okay, am I going to run a marathon tomorrow? No, I'm not going to run a marathon tomorrow. I'm going to build towards a marathon. And if I tried to run a marathon tomorrow, I'd be sore, I'd be sick, and I probably wouldn't run for a long time. So going all in on it is not going to help. The second piece I'm going to say is outsource it. If you can outsource your social media, even though with us, like just finding somebody that you can outsource that you trust, like that is a huge relief. I know for a lot of our clients, they'll tell us like it feels relaxing because they don't need to stress about it. And often I find when people outsource their social, it's more fun for them to do some of the stuff on social. So they outsource their Facebook and Instagram, and all of a sudden they're in Instagram stories way more. And they're like, showing up way more. And it's because it doesn't feel as stressful. So if you have the capacity and the energy and financial energy, outsource it and see if that adds any kind of value to your life at that time.
I love that because so often we think we have to do it all. We have to do it all. And you can still do it all, but like how? How could you do it all? And outsourcing is one of those things, like especially when it comes to your health and like running a business. I talk about meal planning, your exercise routine, laundry, right? Like different things, like outsource it. Social media, outsource. Business investment and business expense. I am not a tax advisor at all, but like business expense. So I just think that it doesn't surprise me that you had the client that outsourced it and then actually showed up more, because now she had the mental space to be able to show up more and probably more in her own way because she wasn't overthinking it. She was just having fun.
and like more creative. Like the stuff that comes up is like better. Like she's coming to with ideas more, right? So it's like that stuff comes with like it comes with time. It's like anything else. Like social media and exercise, there's so many correlated metaphors where I'm always like, if you run and you do this, but it's true because it's one of those things that you build over time. It takes a long time to get into, but once you're into it and it's good, it becomes like a life source. And so I think it can be like I built a multi-six-figure business on Instagram twice. So
Yeah.
I know it's possible and people can do it.
Yep. Yep. Now, okay, we're going to kind of flip gears here because this conversation has been so great, but I also want to talk about something, and I hope you're open to this, but you just came out of surgery and you're running a business. You're CEO. And if you guys haven't, I would hop over to her website. She has a team now. So when she's saying she's starting to like grow and scale, like she has a team to be able to do that now. But as the leader of her team, she just went through a medical like surgery that kind of took her out for a little bit. I'd love for you to share as a leader. How did you set that up? You know, how did you step away? How were you able to do that? And like you were vibrant before, but you are so vibrant right now. I can just feel it that I'm like, all right, this is something that I think we need to talk about as business owners is the fact that like we do have to invest in your health. You know, here on the show, we are going to do that, but like you had no choice, right? So
yeah, it's funny. And I hope you're okay with this, but I know you're like a woman of faith, me too. So, but this comes up often for me where like I'm like making deals with God, and I'm like, okay, like something's got to move in my life. Something has to move because like it's too much. And so right before I had a Pilates related accident, but right before my Pilates related accident, I was like, I have all these things on my plate that I cannot even imagine how I would outsource them. Like I could not even imagine. Like it was like every time I thought about it, it was exhausting me. Like, and my business partner would be like, just do it. And I'd be like, no, like there's this. And I was creating these barriers for myself. So I break my elbow and like not just break it, shattered it, no elbow left, like nothing there. And so I go to, sorry, listeners. And so I literally am at the hospital and they're putting the cast and I asked this is like how far gone I was, but I asked the doctor who's casting me and I go, how will I type? Because you're casting my finger to top of my shoulder. So how will I type? And he's like, won't be typing. I'm like, how will I write? And he's like, you won't be writing. And I was like, how will I swim? And I started to sob because I was experiencing this level of shock of like, oh my gosh, like I had never thought my livelihood would be at risk. Like you never think that. And so when I got home, it had this like huge realization. I have this amazing team filled with people who are desperate for work. Like all these people are like, Kristina, do you have more hours? Like I love working here. I love doing this. Like do you have more clients? Like whatever. And I'm hoarding all of this work with this like scarcity perspective of like, I need this work, but two, like, I needed to do less to be leveling up, but I couldn't do less because I was doing all this work. And so I had to just cut ties on everything. But what was such a gift was being able to cut ties like that, which I don't think people need to break bones for it to happen like this, but I essentially had to cut ties on everything. So it was like I was sleeping after my surgery 20 hours a day, like for at least a week and a half. I had to rebook meetings. But it was this balance of like, I'm the person who shows up. Like, this is who I am. I'm the person who shows up fully. I'm the person who I'm sick and I show up. I've always been like that. And I would be sitting here talking to people like falling asleep because of like my morphine. Like I was in such bad shape. And until I like went to my team and I was like, I have to like Hail Mary all of this. And like, everyone needs to do something for me. And like, this is what needs to happen. And are you okay with it? Everyone rose to the occasion. Everyone stepped up for me. And I've taken not one of those tasks back since I've like recovered. So it's been incredible because the tasks that I was doing, and some of these tasks I'm sad to miss, like I had to give up some clients that I love working with and these things that I'm really interested and excited about. But what was really hard was just that, like, I didn't want to let people down, but what's been such a gift has been like, I've seen myself grow so much in the last month because I've been able to do things I've never had time to do. Like things like this, where I could do a podcast with somebody every day because I now have the capacity to. And so now I'm actually living much more in my like true self. So from a leadership perspective, it was certainly hard, but I think like taking those moments to reevaluate what we're working on and how it impacts us and how it impacts others, I think is crucial as business owners.
Well, First off, thank you so much for sharing that.
Of course.
Because I know that that's hard. And I know everyone listening in right now, like, and you don't have to be a business owner to have this affect you, right? You could be the leader of your household. And the same thing, like you break an elbow and you have like children at home, good luck. Like it is going to be hard, right? And I think that, or just even like you're leading a team in a corporate position, like it is going to be hard. And I appreciate you sharing that so much to just show like sometimes the things that we think we can't do, God will come in and show you one way or another what can happen. And so it's like sometimes we could take the easy way or we could take the hard way, right? And looking back, like what a blessing. I'm so sorry you broke your elbow. Please, I don't want anyone breaking bones, like you said. Or going blind to realize like, hey, stress is a real thing. Like for me, you know, that it's, I just got I had another podcast interview today with someone else, horrible car accident, almost died, changed her life. Right. So like, it's these things that like, when you are at that tipping point, I want to share this with the world because you are getting messages that something needs to change. We're just not recognizing them. And so when you're there in that tipping point and you think, I can't let it go, I can't do this, I can't do that, we got to change that narrative to how could I? How could I alleviate this off my schedule? How could I give more to my team because they can do it? I think when we start changing that, we won't have to go through broken elbows, almost dying in a car accident, losing eyesight. Like we won't have to go through these things to make those changes. They are gifts. They are truly gifts that change our lives. But man, I really hope that this conversation and you sharing, Kristina, just changed it for someone else, changed the trajectory so they don't have to break an elbow.
And like, I think when we're in these moments, it's hard to feel like, and this is why I actually think mindset work is so important to be doing when you don't need it, is because it's so hard when you're in the moment to be like, okay, this is a season of growth. I'm growing like and I'm like, I can't use my arm. My husband has to shower me. Like it's all like so awful. Like everything I can't eat. Like I'm constantly smelling things on myself. Like, but what was like actually such a gift was even that day I saw it as a gift. Like in that day, I was like, okay, yeah, this hurts. And like, I'm in so much pain. And like, but I'm also blessed to not be dead. I'm blessed to be at one of my best friend's bachelorettes. I'm like blessed to be in New York City. Like these are blessings. I'm going to go home and I have free healthcare. Like, you know, I'm blessed by these things that I wouldn't in another season of my life, I would have been like, oh, like poor me. Like, this is so shitty for me. Like, so I think us being able to do that self-work, even when we don't need it, so that when these big things happen in our lives, we're so much more equipped for them because like my mindset from this is so different than even like 2 years ago when I would have another thing happen.
100%. I bet you it's different from 6 months ago, which is so cool, right? So cool. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's something that I really am on a mission to just share more, is that oftentimes either our bodies or whatever you believe is talking to you, right? The universe, God, whoever is there, there's signs and we have to recognize them because like, it's like the biggest moment is coming, you know?
Yeah.
And you're not meant to do everything on your own. We aren't. I'm sorry. I know I feel like sometimes I'm Superwoman, but sometimes I'm like, holy cow, I don't want to be Superwoman. I want like my team. I want like the Avengers on my team, right? And maybe I just mix DC and Marvel. So all of you comic people, I'm sorry, DC and Marvel. This is a big conversation in our household. So sorry.
Yeah, I won't be able to send this one to my husband.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Okay. All right. So as we close out here, well, first off, give us your 2 cents on Threads. I'm excited to hear this.
So, okay, I'm of 2 minds on it. I'm on the right now mind and the future mind. So the right now mind of my thought of this is that truthfully, it's a great place for you to be showing up. Is new platforms. When you're an early adopter, you're always rewarded for it. It's a great space for you to be showing some authority and sharing personal, like I was say personal information. Don't share personal information, but like personal insights and thoughts like that. Great way for you to be building community, building know, like, and trust. My second mind of it is I do not think it's going to last. So enjoy it while you can, because I just don't know that it, like, if I think about it, it doesn't have a lot of the traditional community building tools that I really think platforms need to be successful, like DMs, stuff like that, where, you know, and the stuff we're fed, it's very random at this point. And I think, like, to keep people engaged, there needs to be a higher level of strategy. And two, there needs to be a level for people to connect with each other. And there just isn't yet. So I'm curious to see what happens. I hope I'm wrong. I love new platforms. And people are already shaming each other for posting podcast links and stuff in there. So that's fine. But I really think it'll be interesting to see if it survives. But right now, it's a great way to have fun. But if you're feeling stressed about social media, the answer to it is not to add another platform.
Amen. That's what I was hoping. I was like, oh, I wonder if she's going to go there. Because, like, for me, yep, I went over there. I was like, all right, what's this? Now that I've learned a little bit more about it, I think it might have been better for me to, like, take a moment and, like, read the fine lines, the terms on it. That being said, hey, it is here now. We will see what happens, but I appreciate your 2 cents on it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And okay, Kristina, where is the best place for everyone to find you?
Yeah. So I'm easiest to be found on Instagram at Kristina.Bartold. I spell my name with a K because I'm Polish. And the other piece is you can find me at the Build Your Digital Community podcast, which you'll be on shortly. So I can't wait for your episode to go live too. And yeah, I'd love to hear what resonated from you for this episode. And any friend of Shelly's is a friend of mine. So feel free to DM me directly.
You're so sweet. You're so sweet. Definitely follow. I'll have all of it linked in the show notes, so you will see that there. And Kristina, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for, like, I hope everyone listening in right now just, like, heard how real you are. And that's what this is about, right? Like, we're no better than each other. We're all just here to support each other in whichever way that we can. You have such a cool story and you share it in such a honest and just real way, raw way that, like, makes me go, oh my gosh, yeah, she gets it. I get it. I appreciate that knowledge. I trust it that I'm going to go do it right now. So I just want to say thank you for being you and joining us on the show here. So
thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to hear the conversation.
You're welcome. All right. Well, if you love this episode, snap it on your phone right now, share and tag us. We will give you all the love. Also, if there is another topic, like we were definitely talking about social today, I hope this helped you with your personal brand, your business brand. But if there's another topic or someone that you would like to have on the show, please shoot me a DM. You know I will connect with them or find some way to get them on the show. I am all about that. And then also remember, here on the show, we are in the business of being healthy. So thank you so much for joining in with us.